There is a saying that we don't see life as it is. We see life as we are. Now, in this place where we recognize to see life from a place of stillness, or not doing, or not trying, is totally different from seeing life from movement, doing and trying. So there's an old story told several times. Let's see what it invokes for us now, resting in this place as we do for the most part of experiencing life from a place of still presence. It's that story of the widower and his son who lived in a small village in the land of the rising sun. They had been without a wife and a mother for some years, but they lived very contentedly. They didn't have anyone to tell them when to wash their socks or to change their shirts. They could go fishing whenever they wanted to. But the years passed by, and it came to the time when the old widower, following the mores of the day, the customs, said to his son, "Son, I'm now getting very old, and it's time for you to take a wife." But the son was very adamant. "Father, Dad, you know that I'm afraid of women. We're very happy the way we are. We don't need a woman in our life at all." But the father was very adamant about it, so he went to the woman in town who was the matchmaker, asking her to find a suitable wife for his son. And indeed she did. She wasn't beautiful, but it was said that she was very homely, and that she was a good cook, and so duly the marriage took place. But the son didn't have much time for his wife at all, and until she kind of ingratiated herself with him by patching his breeches and darning his socks and so forth. But the time passed and they got along as best they could. But of course that time came when the old man passed on, and the son was completely and utterly inconsolable, totally and absolutely bereft, depressed, moping, all of those things that come with loss. His wife tried everything to try to bring him out of this state, and even one day she said to him, "Husband dear, don't you think it might be a good idea if perhaps you make a journey to Kyoto?" And the son said, "Why would I want to go to Kyoto? There's nothing there for me. I've never been to the big city. I don't..." But we know the way of men, because a couple of weeks later he said to his wife, "Maybe I'll go to Kyoto." So this is exactly what he did. He went off to make the journey to Kyoto, and he was wandering the streets of Kyoto, finding it all very fascinating, and deciding that he was going to buy a kimono for his wife. But then all of a sudden he saw something glinting in a stall not far away, so he went over to have a look to see what this was, and he asked the vendor, what is this shining thing you've got there? And the vendor said, oh, this is the latest thing to come out of Persia. It's called a mirror. So the son picked it up and held it up in front of him, and all of a sudden he said, Dad, Dad, what are you doing here in Kyoto? I've missed you so very, very much. Oh, Dad, I'm so glad to see you. So quickly he offered a sum to the vendor, and the vendor was thinking to himself after the deal was done that he could have earned much more money because this fellow was so overawed by this purchase that he was making. So the son, taking the mirror very carefully wrapped up in silk, and of course, having already bought the kimono for his wife, went back to his home, and he gave his wife the kimono, and she was very happy. But for some reason, he kept his package wrapped in silk to himself. He took it and put it away in a drawer in his bed chamber. But then every day his wife noticed that he disappeared into their bed chamber, and she could hear laughter and talking going on all the time, and she wondered what on earth was what is going on here. So one day when her husband was out fishing or doing something, she went into the bed chamber and she went into the drawer. She got out the carefully wrapped piece of thing in the silk and held it up, and she said, I knew it, he's got another woman in Kyoto. And she's not even beautiful. Look at her. Look at her pale face. Look at her scowl on her face. Look at her. I knew it. And so after that, of course, she gave him the silent treatment. She didn't say a word to him. Nothing was going on between them at all until finally the husband got totally fed up with this and confronted her and said, well, what is this all about? And she said, I knew it, you've got another woman in Kyoto. And she took out the package and he held it up. He said, no, that's my dad. no, that's not another woman, that's my dad. That's who I'm speaking to every day. But a terrible argument ensued back and forth. No, it's the woman, no, it's my dad. And so it got so heated between them and loud that even the neighbors could hear what was going on. So they came to see what all the ruckus was about, and each of them told the story about, no, this is my dad, no, this is... And so, they wanted to make this all very peaceful. So they said, look, why don't you come to the monastery where the old abbess is said to be very wise and very knowledgeable, and I'm sure she'll be able to settle this for you. So taking the mirror with them, they went to the monastery, and the neighbors all went too because they wanted to know what was going on. Of course, so they all milled around when the husband and wife were sitting across the table from the old abbess, looking very stern and all. And each of them told their side of the story and handed the mirror to the old abbess. And she held it up and looked into it and said, oh, that poor thing. Look at her. She's so ashamed of what she did, trying to steal another man's wife, that she shaved her head. Now just leave her with me. I'll take care of you. Now you two go home and make babies and be happy, because she'll be quite safe with me. So the husband and wife went off down the road with the entourage of neighbours behind them, but tentatively the husband reached out and took his wife's hand and turned to her and he said, "You know, I'm quite worried about leaving Dad in that place because, you know, he never was very religious." So listening to this story as we listened some long while ago, and being in the place that we are, where we now know this seeing and experiencing life from a place of stillness and presence and, for the most part, non-doing, at least non-reactionary, responsive, but not reactionary, and certainly not trying to do this or that, or be this or that, or prove this or that. What does life represent for us now? Recognizing that this mirror metaphor, what is the meaning of now? The deep meaning of this story in the place that we're at, so different from where we were. Mirrors, life. What does it mean for us now? We don't see life as it is. We see life as we are. Is that a truism for us? And what does it mean now? Seeing life as it is. Which brings us back to the question, what is it that is seen? We might know who we are now, but what is life to us now? Is it still a mirror revealing to us what is it to you?
Like my soul is your soul, your soul, your soul, but God just gave us all different roles to play.
Mm-hmm.
Transfiguration.
Okay. So